This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Lenovo is built for creators who don't wait for inspiration. They chase it. With inventive tech, built-in AI tools, and seamless performance, Lenovo devices powered by Intel Core Ultra processors are designed to bring your wildest ideas to life faster. That's the power of Lenovo with Intel inside. Enjoy flexible financing, rewards on every purchase, and free shipping. And students get special offers when you create an account at Lenovo.com.
Lenovo.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/iHeart. That's greenlight.com/iHeart.
The Tennafitzgerald, not only of the day, but of the week. The Common Man will be back on Monday. We'll actually be at Vikings training camp on Monday, and then we'll be live from the Minnesota State Fair starting next Thursday.
What's it say about Zach that Abbott sits down and he's now spent the last 5 minutes just wiping everything down?
It's gross in here, man. I'm just telling you.
I have followed Zach, and let's just face it, others that are associated with the power trip
it's not
in
just
that room before. There's usually crumbs everywhere. There might be like tomato sauce on the table.
It's for other people to clean up.
Yeah. But yes, that is the voice of Michael Russo, who covers the Minnesota Wild for The Athletic. Michael, you've been traveling all over the place this summer. I'm assuming you've enjoyed yourself because the locations you talked about with me seem like fun places to go.
Yeah, it's been a fun summer so far. And man, the Wild have cooperated, right? They haven't done really much. So
good summer for you.
Yeah, so you could actually put your phone down and know that you're not missing anything, at least as of now. And obviously, they've left a couple big items here toward the end. And so we're sort of now at that point, probably starting next week, where we'll be on call for some news, hopefully. But my guess is that this goes another month. Training camp doesn't start till the 18th or 19th. So we'll see what happens with Rossi. We'll see what happens with the Kaprizov extension. Maybe they even talked to Philip Gustafson about an extension before the start of the season. But right now, I've had a pretty good summer, and trust me, it gets hectic now. Like, I'm going this weekend to New York to sit down with a player. Come back Monday night. Tuesday, I'm going to Milan, Italy, to sit down with 27 NHLers. And then I come back day after. I'm going to Detroit, Ann Arbor, like Plymouth area for a U.S. Olympic men's orientation camp for a couple days. And then I come back here a day, doing the whole state fair circuit. Then I'm going to New York again for some work. And then I come back, and then I'm going to Vegas to sit down with about 40 NHL stars. So it's between today and the 11th of September, I'm in Vegas, Milan, Italy, Detroit, New York twice.
How's bragging camp going?
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I'm not bragging. You should have felt my anxiety attack last night when I always get this way, like around mid-August, where it's like the excitement of the season's coming up, but then you get also this anxiety, like, oh wow, I got to go back to work. And now for me, like, work is really just bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
So, you start to like map out like when you're even going to write these stories, and that's what gives you the anxiety. Like, it's easy to do the sit downs.
Sure.
It's easy to get there. But it's then you actually have to give the Athletic a reason why they're spending thousands of dollars to send me all over the world.
All right. Well, let's talk about Kaprizov first, because I think, July 1st, we kind of knew that signing wouldn't necessarily happen right away.
Right.
I think I had told myself, and probably even said on the air, once you get into August, maybe I'm going to start getting a little bit concerned if it's going that long, because it seems like a relatively open and shut contract to me. Like the Wild are being willing to pay him, and Unless Kaprizov wants to go somewhere else where he can win, it seems like a pretty easy contract on his part in terms of financial. We're now on August 15th. So is there something at this point that is holding this back, or are they just going, hey, we're just going to wait till he gets to Minnesota and we'll figure everything out?
That's exactly right. I don't think there's anything holding it back other than the fact that, and nothing's done. They haven't agreed upon term, years, money. I think they have a ballpark that they know where this contract's going. Let's put it this way. If Kaprizov doesn't sign by, say, the start of the season or the start of training camp, it probably means he doesn't want to be here, no matter what he says. Because the numbers that he is offering are, what the numbers are.
They're very nice.
They're very nice.
Yes.
They're going to make him the highest.
And he's not going to get that elsewhere.
The highest paid player in the league. They're willing to give him the most years. I think the thing is, does he want to go that long? How much would it be if it's on a middle term? Would the Wild be comfortable with that? I think whatever Kaprizov wants, he's going to have to get. If he says, I'm only signing for 3 years, then it's got to be for 3 years. You don't hold this up over that. I think the key is to get it done.
Speaking of anxiety, Wild fans would be anxious if he said just 3 years.
Yeah, because then that's what it is telling you is now I'm putting you on
win or else.
That's and Freak, I said this on one of the shows here, or maybe it was my podcast, and everybody thought it was preposterous, but I actually think that's good for Wild fans. If I'm the Wild, I don't to me, I don't want them to get complacent. They haven't delivered in terms of winning a playoff round, let alone winning a cup. And so I think that if Kaprizov puts them on the clock and says, by the way, a 3-year deal is really a 4-year deal because the deal starts in a year. I think that now puts the pressure on the team to deliver a true contender. So I actually think that's good for the Wild fans, where if you sign it for 8 years and you get complacent, you got the biggest star locked up for 8 years, it's perfect. I think it actually puts some pressure on the management to say, all right, we are going to make sure that in this short window, we are going to prove to him that, one, we can win, but two, that we want him to then stay longer than that. So to get back to your original question, though, on what's holding it up, is they've gotten to this point of where they feel like things now, what is really being conveyed to Kaprizov, and does he understand it? And I think they've hit that point with the agent where they just sort of want to take a step back, and Billy wants to sit down with Kirill and not just go over contract and things like that, but really go over the plan, how he's comfortable, how he fits into it, his future, everything, have him ask questions and things like that. So I think that's where they're sort of at, if that makes sense, is that they just want to make sure that nothing's being lost in translation while he's in Moscow and they're over here. The other thing is,
do we know when he's coming here?
At some point, it was supposed to be at some point at the end of this month, and I don't know if he's necessarily just coming here or if he's going down to Florida or something.
Sure.
He's obviously has a couple places that he lives now. So
lucky.
So
he'll have a few more after the next contract.
So I think most guys are arriving in town around right after Labor Day. Is pretty much when most guys are definitely going to be here.
So, but we can be cutting this close here.
If Rossi is not signed, he will not be here. But Kaprizov, it's going to be cut. Remember, they didn't get 4 years ago they didn't sign him until the day before camp. So I know that everybody wants to get it done. The Wild want to get it done, and trust me, I'm tired of even really not talking about it, but just trying to.
I'm sure you get asked about it all the time.
Yeah,
you get
it's
asked
just
about it all the time.
Constant. I mean, even it's funny. And if he's listening, I don't mean this at all a slight, but I scanned my boarding pass in Honolulu the other day, and the second I scanned it, Captain Mike, the Delta pilot, he's like, "So when are they going to sign Kaprizov?" so it's like, I'm like, oh, and it totally caught me off guard. I actually went up to Captain Mike when we landed in Minneapolis just to shake his hand and say, "Nice meeting you," because I'm like, I think that. He caught me so off guard. I was in such a zone of just landed from Kona and connect, had to walk a mile to get connection. I was so not thinking Wild that it actually in our little short from the where I checked my boarding pass to the end of the jet bridge. I was so not in the frame of mind to talk Kaprizov that I'm I hope Captain Mike doesn't think I'm an absolute jerk.
We call those Honolulu problems.
Yeah.
So at what point, let's say the season starts and Kaprizov.
Yeah,
a contract is not agreed to. At some point, the Wild, right? We went through this with Marian Gaborik and lost him for absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
and Kaprizov's on a whole nother level than Marian Gaborik ever was. At what point do we go? We got to start considering trading this guy.
Yeah, no, I'm on that camp. I covered that whole Gaborik thing, and it was a disaster for the organization.
Yeah,
absolute disaster. The difference here is that Gabrick got hurt 5 games into the season playing sewer ball in Fort Lauderdale, and that's actually
what
triggered
is sewer ball.
Sewer ball is a soccer hacky sack game.
Oh yeah,
that they always play.
Yeah.
I always call it soccer hacky sack. So he got hurt playing that, and then basically it triggered a season's worth of injuries. Right, he didn't come back essentially till the trade deadline, became untradeable. Then all of a sudden, Doug Risebrough was fired. Chuck Fletcher comes in, and now he all of a sudden won the contract that was offered the previous summer, and the Wild said no, let him go for nothing, and signed Morty Havlat, which was another disaster. So just to give everybody a little history lesson of what happened in 2009. So in that 8-9 season, he turned down the $80 million deal, 10 years, gets hurt, and then it became a major problem. And I think that's what you have to worry about. The difference there is that he was tradable from the standpoint that he didn't have trade protection. Kaprizov has a full no move. So if he is going to basically, by not signing, telling the Wild that, look, I'm not convinced yet, the Wild will, I think it's incumbent that Billy, and obviously this is not going to probably be aired in the public eye, but it's going to create a season-long distraction. But he's going to have to ask Carell for a couple teams that he'd be willing to sign long-term or go to, and then you move that. But we are getting, I don't want people to drive off the road here. We're getting, although I just drove here and there was so much traffic, nobody's going to be driving off the road, but you might fender bend somebody. So I don't want to, that's way off in the distance. Like, I know that we're like, let's not even think about that
training
yet.
camp starts like a month.
I will tell you, I agree, but the Wild are still convinced that he wants to be here. They think that they have the sort of the landscape of what a deal might look like, and now they just want to sit down with them. They're not voicing any sort of concern still that this is going to be an issue. So we'll see. But I get it. Like, until he's signed on the dotted line, nobody's going to be comfortable.
All right. Well,
the other thing is also he's working. Like, I watch him every day on social media.
I saw him Malkin.
I see him with his trainer and his trainer posts everything, and he's working out every day with Malkin until he's back in the country and the Wild are here and you're getting closer to season. Like, you're going to want to have a bells and whistles press conference if you're going to sign a player to, at least temporarily until McDavid signs, be the highest paid player in the National Hockey League, most likely. So you're not going to do that on a Zoom. Like when he signed in July, that first contract, and he was in Russia and we're talking to a translator and he spoke almost no English and all that. You're going to want to do a big presser like he signed his last contract. When he signed that 5-year, $45 million deal, they brought him on a private jet back up from Miami with Bill Guerin, and they had the press conference the next day.
All right, let's talk about the other contract impasse on the other side of this break with Marco Rossi. He's Michael Russo from The Athletic. He's the best in the business, covers the Minnesota Wild for The Athletic. We'll continue to chat with Russo as he's in studio for the entire hour right here on the Tennafitzgerald.
The reviews and ratings are in, and Ice Cube's Big 3 is the surprise hit of the summer. And to cap off the season, iHeart presents the Big 3 Basketball Playoffs. This Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, the remaining 4 teams battle it out for the right to make the Big 3 championship in the most physical, fierce, and competitive basketball league in the world. The action starts with the Big 3 Monster Energy Celebrity Game, where your favorite stars compete in Big 3 3-on-3 basketball. Then the first of 2 semifinal games features Dwight Howard and the LA Riot taking on Montrezl Harrell and Dr. J's first-place Chicago triplets. The finale will see popular Miami 305 with stars MVP Michael Beasley, and last will Make You Dance Stevenson take on Nancy Lieberman's Dallas Power, who finished the season winning 5 straight weeks to capture second place. Can Glenn Rice, Greg Monroe, and Paul Millsap stop Miami's physical assault, or will Miami and Beasley put an end to Dallas's winning ways? Who will make it to the Big 3 championship? This no-holds-barred action starts Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific, only on CBS.
Lenovo is built for creators who don't wait for inspiration. They chase it. With inventive tech, built-in AI tools, and seamless performance, Lenovo devices powered by Intel Core Ultra processors are designed to bring your wildest ideas to life faster. That's the power of Lenovo with Intel inside. Enjoy flexible financing, rewards on every purchase, and free shipping. And students get special offers when you create an account at Lenovo.com.
Lenovo.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/iHeart. That's greenlight.com/iHeart.
right, welcome back. Michael Russo from The Athletic, talking Minnesota Wild. He's in studio with me, Tenna B. This is the Tennafitzgerald. All right, we got the Kaprizov contract stuff out of the way. Now let's move on to the Marco Rossi one, because it seemed like all summer long that this was the dicier one of the two. They were at a bit of an impasse. Has anything advanced in that regard? Just complete radio silence?
Yeah, radio silence. And at the risk of being doom and gloom, as the texter said, here's again the facts.
Yeah.
Okay. They haven't talked since early June. Is that being doom and gloom? It probably is, but that's the fact. Like, that's the job to tell. They haven't talked since early June. They have not had a conversation, the two sides, since early to mid June. So right now, the Wild are just sort of the Wild's opinion here is that, look, Marco, we know your numbers. We know what you think you're worth. But here are the facts. You had no arb rights. You had your only right this summer was to sign an offer sheet. Nobody signed you to an offer sheet. We know what the trade offers were, and they were not. They were all mediocre. They were all like mid-round picks and players they didn't want. So they feel like this proves what his value is, and it's not being a $7 million player or a $6 million player near Boldy, despite the fact that the numbers in comparables say that he is a $6.5 million, $7 million player. That is true. But in their eyes, he's not. In the way they got Boldy on a home run contract, and that does set in their eyes what the contract value should be. They got Eriksson Ek on this 5.3.
Yeah.
They do not want to pay him more than Eriksson Ek, even though that contract was signed 4 years ago and it was the steal and a half of the league. So, but this is just the facts here. So they offered him the 5x5 last winter. He rejected it. I don't even think that's on the table anymore. Even if he came back to him, I don't think he would.
Wow.
And said it wanted. I think it's going to have to be a 2 or 3 year bridge deal. He's going to have to just bet on himself, know the fact that, there's a lot of hurt feelings from what happened in the playoffs. But if you look at their roster, when he signs, he's going to be a top 6 forward again, at least in the regular season. He's going to have a chance to continue to produce, bet on himself, and then by the time you figure this out, maybe you'll become an unrestricted free agent. One thing that is still complicating matters a little bit is he doesn't become a UFA until 2029. So, but he doesn't want to sign for 4 years. So the question is just what is that sweet spot? My guess is he's just going to have to suck it up, sign a 2-year deal, probably under 5. That is going to be a contract that he's not going to like, but he's just going to have to use that as motivation. I also I've been in touch with him this week, texting back and forth. I'm supposed to talk to him next week. I watch him on social media. The guy is a machine. The reason why I didn't talk to him the other day is he's climbing up a mountain in the Alps. He's just ridiculous. You watch him. He's just an absolute monster right now, his body. So he is ready. And that's what he's got to realize, too, is like, and I feel like bad putting this all on him because I do think that he's gotten the short shrift here a little bit in what the contract, because I know the way that contracts are done in the league, it's based on numbers. That's just a fact. And when Matthew Coronado is getting a new deal at 6.5, well, Marco was a better player than him. It's just that simple. But that's just the way that life is right now. And what he's got to realize
he's probably also feeling the wrath of an organization that has not had financial flexibility and doesn't want to put themselves back in that in those shoes again. Yeah, and that's the thing is that every penny you spend more than you want, it affects other things. Like what if Urov pops? What if Boyan pops? What if Juracek pops? Ogren, these guys, Wallstedt. You have to make sure. Yes, when in the context that we're all assuming Kaprizov's going to be a $15, $16 million man. Well, it doesn't matter how much the cap continues to climb. That stuff starts to eat if you start, paying in their eyes, overpaying guys. So my point on Marco is that he's got to really put in all this incredible work this offseason to come here and have a great year. And so, do you really want to ruin that all by not being signed by the start of camp? And again, I get it. It's a two-way thing here. And I'm not trying to say that the Wild should just, that Marco should just, just say, all right, here, I'll take anything to play. He's a proud guy. He knows what everybody else in the league is making and things like that. But, he's putting in all this work. And when you're late for training camp, it does affect things beyond camp. It just does. And when you're a European that's late for camp, a lot of times it really delays things because you can't just come over. You got to get a work visa. And so that, I remember when Fiala signed on the eve of camp one year, we didn't see him for a week or so. And so the longer this goes, he's the one that I am a little concerned about because
he's probably going to have to be the one that gives, because I just don't think right now that Bill Guerin is. Bill feels like he's got no rights, and this is what he's on our pay scale. This is what he warrants, and he's willing to make him sweat. Now, I will say, I do think that it is important, and I think it will happen that, all right, when Bill gets back, they're at a retreat right now dealing with, really working on the season, the management and ownership and all that stuff. And then they get back. I think at some point you've got to re-engage conversations with his agent. Like, it's just got to start.
I was going to say, when's that going to happen? Because we're at mid-August now.
It's got to happen soon, and I think it will. But I think, and the more that happens, like, Marco's feelings are getting more and more hurt, and I think it's important for John Hines and him to have another conversation. I read some quotes from Marco last week where he basically said there's a trust issue, and he didn't like how he walked into the locker room in the playoffs, and that's how he found out on the chalkboard essentially that he was the fourth line center. Now I didn't know that. Yeah, but I will say this is pro sports. That's how it's done. You're not waking him up from a nap. Hey, Marco, you're like,
line changes all the time, and you can't.
And this is just like I am cynical to that type of stuff because, and I get it, everybody's an individual, and we all want to be treated with respect. I too,
sure.
Like if I feel like I'm snubbed by my editors, I get ticked off. But I will say I've covered the league a long time, and I'm telling you that this stuff has happened forever. I told this story on the podcast the other day, but I remember standing on the bench with Dave Gagne in Montreal once, and I don't feel like I'm saying something out of box because it was on the record story that turned out, but he was not happy about the Lions and the lack of communication where he was in the lineup. And this was a veteran at the time. Like, this stuff just happens. We all like to assume that, like, communication on all pro sports teams is exactly like perfect. Like, if John Hines needs to talk to Marco Rossi, he's calling him into his office or having a 30-minute like hug fest, and it just doesn't.
They don't
work
have time for that.
Exactly. Like, especially in the playoffs. So like a lot of times you just expect that a professional athlete's just going to be, mature enough and professional enough to just like deal with it. And then I want to get more context from Marco by what he meant. Like, did he not at all have any conversations with John throughout this? Then I agree with you. That'd be a problem. But if we're just talking game 2 and they talked between games 2 and 3, then that, to me is a little less of an issue.
I'm actually been kind of on the wild side of this whole Rossi thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rossi's a quality player. Is he a player I want to spend $7 million a year on? I don't think I do. And I get it. I get he's young and there's still a trajectory that he can reach. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if I see that with him. I don't know if there's this special trait where I'm like, man, once that thing gets unlocked, in the next 2-3 years, that he can become this. I think he's just going to be a fine quality player. And I'm kind of with the Wild where they've gone so long of being handcuffed financially that we can't just be throwing money around anymore at some of these guys. And I also, I feel like I'm in the minority. I don't mind the way they handled him in the playoffs last year. Like, Ryan Hartman played well enough where he deserved a bigger role. Now, you could argue him versus Freddie Gaudreau. I get that. But in terms of Rossi moving down, for Hartman to be elevated, Hartman played great early in that series, and I don't have a problem with him getting more looks.
I agree with you.
It's a playoff series. You got to play to win at that point.
To me, the Gaudreau thing was more because if I remember, he was on the line with Johansson and Gus Nyquist, and that line, like, analytically was also terrible. And Gaudreau went 6 games without having a point. Come on.
Yeah.
But in terms of Rossi, like, that's where they're at. Like, they don't want to just come out and say it. Like, Bill Guerin keeps on pointing out, I like Rossi. But I think I like
him, but I don't love him.
The way that you just said it is that, like, if we give him 8 times 7, we are saying he is our number 1 center for the next 8 years. And
I don't know if I see that.
And they don't believe that they see it. And I think the way they used him in the playoffs shows it. They don't feel like in the playoffs that he's got the ability to drive a top 6 line. That's what their opinion is. You can disagree all you want, but that's what it comes down to. So it's not that he's been
a number 2 center here. Right. I don't know if he's a number 2 center on a Stanley Cup winning team.
Right.
And that's the difference.
And that's, I think, how they feel is that they like him at 5x5. They're perfectly fine with him being a top 6 center right now. Yeah. But if they want to get to where they want to get to,
correct,
they can't have him making $7-8 million. If he's
I agree with that.
And he's not your prototypical 3rd or 4th line guy. So, like, they're just
correct.
So that's the dilemma. That's the sort of elephant in the room that they don't really want to say publicly, but it's so clear by just the way that they utilize him in the playoffs and the way they're treating him now, is that even though his numbers show that he should be a $6.5 million player, they don't feel he is. And they don't want to go long term with that. The thing that I think they have to give on is just give him 2 times 5 or something. Like, just at least hit the $5 million number.
That.
I don't know
they
if
haven't
he
even been
will,
getting to
but
5?
they offered him 2 below 5, and it was a quick no. And you're right, but there just comes a point where, where Marco's got to be the one that drives it. Like, his agent, obviously, who's a big staunch. I mean, his agent, it's fun. It's kind of funny. He's used to work for the NHLPA. In fact, he represented Bill Guerin in some of his ARB cases and things like that. So there's a history there, and they like each other. But I guess my point on that is that he's a staunch NHLPA guy. So he also believes in the philosophy that if you sign a player to an undervalued contract, you're affecting the next guy. So he is one of those guys.
And I get that.
But at some point, Marco's probably going to become the boss. The question is, does he totally in lockstep with his agent? He might be. He absolutely might be. So I'm hoping that we'll talk next week. I'm supposed to call him next week and we'll have a conversation.
All right, we spent a half hour on Kaprizov and Rossi. We'll try to get to the rest of the team. I got plenty of questions, plenty of players I want to ask you about. Michael Russo, one final segment, half hour to go here on the Tennafitzgerald.
The reviews and ratings are in, and Ice Cube's Big 3 is the surprise hit of the summer. And to cap off the season, iHeart presents the Big 3 basketball playoffs. This Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, the remaining 4 teams battle it out for the right to make the Big 3 championship in the most physical, fierce, and competitive basketball league in the world. The action starts with the Big 3 Monster Energy Celebrity Game, where your favorite stars compete in Big 3 3-on-3 basketball. Then the first of 2 semifinal games features Dwight Howard and the LA Riot taking on Montrezl Harrell and Dr. J's first-place Chicago Triplets. The finale will see popular Miami 305 with stars MVP Michael Beasley, and last will make you Dan Stevenson take on Nancy Lieberman's Dallas Power, who finished the season winning 5 straight weeks to capture second place. Can Glenn Rice, Greg Monroe, and Paul Millsap stop Miami's physical assault, or will Miami and Beasley put an end to Dallas's winning ways? Who will make it to the Big 3 championship? This no-holds-barred action starts Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific, only on CBS.
Lenovo is built for creators who don't wait for inspiration. They chase it. With inventive tech, built-in AI tools, and seamless performance, Lenovo devices powered by Intel Core Ultra processors are designed to bring your wildest ideas to life faster. That's the power of Lenovo with Intel inside. Enjoy flexible financing, rewards on every purchase, and free shipping. And students get special offers when you create an account at Lenovo.com.
Lenovo.
Final segment with Michael Russo from The Athletic talking Minnesota Wild. We will get to some texts and some talkbacks here shortly. The Wild signed Jack Johnson to a professional tryout the other day. I don't know if that's technically called a signing or not, but and you've noted in there that not super confident that Jonas Brodin is going to be starting the season. Do we have any indication as to, I know it's upper body injury, but what kind of injury it is, the timeline, or in terms of not starting the season? Are we talking a week or two? Are we talking a month and a half? What's the Brodin situation?
They say a couple weeks. So the question is, how much work does he get in training camp? Because if he misses the first couple weeks of the season, it would lead you to believe that he's not ready for the start of camp, and then you're playing catch up. Although, wasn't it last year where Boldy, or was it 2 years ago, where Boldy broke his toe?
That's right.
And missed all of camp, and then came out and immediately had a monster start to the season. So it's not always the guarantee, but Boldy's a special player. But so is Brodin. And so, they say a couple weeks. But the one thing I'll say, and I pointed this out, it's not a signing yet, right? As he's essentially coming here for per diem, during training camp. But Bill Guerin is loath to sign these guys to PTOs unless there is an opportunity for them to make the team. He doesn't want to lead them astray. They are technically free agents, so even theoretically, although it rarely happens, Jack Johnson could come here and then a week in sign with somebody else. That is allowed if somebody suddenly has a he's an unrestricted free agent if somebody had an injury or poor performance or something like that. But I think that Bill really does think that he has a chance to make the team, because right now, unless Lambos comes into camp and he looks absolutely awesome, it sure feels like to me that they're going to be short left D, right? You only have Middleton and Boyum's 19.
You don't know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, so there is a good chance that he at least starts the season with them, and then again, you could throw him on waivers, you could trade him, but I think that as long as he looks like he can absolutely play, there's a chance they sign him.
So my question when I saw Jack Johnson signed, right, technically not signed, but trying out with the Brodin injury news, and then maybe it's been more recent that they figured out when he was going to be ready. But if they've known for a while that he was going to be missing the start of the season, why did they trade Declan Chisholm? Because that seems like that would have been a great fit of obviously a left shot defenseman. Proved, I thought, last year that he's quality and can play top four for a small amount of time. Could play on the power play for a little bit if he needed him to. And given you do have a young Zeev Buyum, who might be a star, but is still very young and early in his career and is unproven to this point. And even on the right side, a David Juracek that you might be counting on, but is still unproven. Why a guy like Declan Chisholm that seemed to be a little bit proven? What was the rationale for trading him?
Well, he had ARB rights and he was the RFA, and I think that they just felt like it was too much money in their salary structure.
Well, how much was he going to be making?
Well, he signed with the Caps for 1.6 a season, so they felt like that was too much.
Okay.
For where he was going to be in their lineup, because eventually he was going to be the 7th D. And as he showed last year, he's basically somebody that they felt comfortable in the top four, but never in the third pair. And it was the weirdest thing ever. Sure. He would be scratched, and then all of a sudden when they'd lose a Middleton or a Brodin, he'd come in the lineup. But but it was just bizarre, but it's like they just did not have a lot of comfort level in him. I totally am with you. Like when they traded him, because I knew at that point, I don't know if you remember the timing. I've been sort of alluding to the fact that Brodin was hurt, and that I didn't think that something, and I thought that something was going on, because I had heard in mid to late June that he flew back from Sweden to go to Colorado to have some sort of surgery. So when I got wind that day that Declan was being traded, I was surprised, and that's why finally that day I also confirmed with Bill Guerin on the record that Jonas Brodin was hurt to start the year. So it really just came down to money with him. They didn't feel like he was a $1.6 million player. They felt like they could plug the hole with probably a league minimum guy. It was surprising to me that they maybe didn't sign somebody right out of free agency, but the way it is at free agency, if you're a free agent, you want to get paid. You're usually not signing a league minimum deal. So it came down to looking at some of the UFAs left, the Travis Mannix, maybe bringing back John Merrill, Calvin DeHaan, players like that. And at the end of the day, for some reason, they just like Jack Johnson. To me, he's not the same player he used to be, but they feel like he's willing to play any role for them, even be the 8th D if at times that he's going to, he's motivated to play that 20th NHL season. And so we'll see what happens. But I didn't love the move. I don't love him as a player anymore. But if he's just here for a stopgap and doesn't hurt things, it's an easy ability to put him in the lineup.
The ceiling of this team this year probably is going to depend on how the young guys perform, and they're going to be depending on a bunch of them. Let's start on the blue line with Zeev Buyum, who we saw in the postseason last year, but just been thrown right out of the University of Denver right into a playoff game without having played a regular season game, and was playing kind of a third line role. And a little bit undersized, playing at a more physical level of the hockey in the playoffs. And then David Juracek, who they gave up a haul for last year, and he spent most of the season in Iowa. What are your expectations for those two, at least for this upcoming season?
I don't know if Juracek's in town yet, but he very well might be. Buyum has been in town, has been working out in their facilities, been skating with Andy Ness. I hear he's put on 15
muscle.
pounds this offseason.
That's necessary.
I can tell you that I talked to John Blum, who is former Wild defenseman, plays overseas. He's from Southern California, skates and works out all summer, all offseason with Buyum, and he says he's an absolute monster, both on the ice and just
By the way,
physically.
Gaining 15 pounds of muscle in offseason is not easy.
Yeah, no. I mean, I know how to gain 15 pounds in the offseason, but that's usually not that. But yeah, it's absolutely, that's what they're saying. We'll see, but he looks bigger. I mean, but even Rossi, again, he just looks so much bigger to me. Not that he really needed to get bigger. The problem is the way that the Wild want him to get bigger. You can't get bigger. You can't put him on a stretch rack and add like a couple inches and make him 6 feet or 6'1" or something. But to get back to your point, I totally am with you. Like where this season goes, one obviously depends on health. We saw how good this team can be until they got absolutely decimated by injury last December.
Specifically the health of your key players.
Yes, exactly. And they lost key player after key player. I mean, remember, it was Brodeen, it was Gustafson, it was Kaprizov, it was Zuccarello, it was Jake Middleton, it was Jared Spurgeon. It was all in a row. It was crazy that December to January where every day they came in and had somebody new. So that's one. And two, it is on these young guys. Is Volstead ready to really push Philip Gustafson? I'm actually going to be sitting down with Gustafson next week in Italy. Is Ogren here to, like, again, another guy on social media is an absolute monster right now. Like, he just looks so ready, and it looked like Iowa really worked for him last year. He had a great time when he was down there in terms of production, and now does he get the opportunity in the lineup to play up, and does he have the ability to produce? That's another one. Juracek, is he the Juracek that we saw in that Colorado game? Where he had that unbelievable play on the Trenyon goal? Or is he, the guy that we saw that really didn't play great in Iowa and obviously didn't get a huge role here? And then Boyum, and then we'll see where things go with Urov. I mean, Urov is. I was going to ask about Urov. Yeah, I mean, he's the one they're really looking forward to. He's been in Connecticut since mid-July, working out, skating. Looks like he's got the ability. He's going to have probably some growing pains. He's going to have to work his way up the lineup. He's not just going to be, unless Rossi's not here, anointed in the top 6. He's going to have to show that he could play. But
they are planning on starting him at center.
Yep, they are. Now, obviously, that could change in an instant. But, they did trade Freddie Goudreau, and they got the Rossi situation. So right now, there's a clear role for him at center. But they signed Nico Sturm, and they have Eriksson Ek, and Hartman can play center and probably will play center. So there's not that clear path. He's going to have to show it. But I'm looking forward to meeting him. I'm actually going to meet him in a couple days and have a big story on that next week.
Paul apparently wants to scoop you. He texts at the Brad Sean Bryan KFAN text line. Juracek is in town. Yep. He's at the kids' West Walls camp yesterday. He met all the kids.
That's awesm. So I mean that's
my two boys will be at the West Walls camp in about 2 weeks. That's so hopefully Kaprizov will show up to that one.
So there's a good scoop, and I think that that's a good sign that he's here so early. Remember, I mean, he lacerated his spleen at his first game back in Iowa after the Wild sent him down after that series of healthy scratches last spring, and then he goes into the lineup, immediately gets hurt, has a significant injury that knocks him out the rest of the year. Took some time to recover, but the fact that he's over here this early, I think, says a lot.
I got another text message at the Brad Sean Bryan KFAN text line. Says, what impact does the Mille Lacs ban of Ojibwe and Grand Casino naming rights have on the Minnesota Wild? Hearing they want to put a sports book in the X, he says it will always be the X, once legalized sports betting is passed, even though they were against it for so long and are heavy hitters politically. I also wanted to ask, maybe...
First of all, I have not heard that. In fact, the Wild completely deny anything about putting a sports book in the X.
Great, though. They should.
I'm just saying. But I will say that is now the...
I would be all for it. If you want to vote for me as the next governor of the great state of Minnesota, I will put a sports book next to Grand Casino Arena.
Well, I mean, it's becoming so commonplace up in Canada. You go to a Washington Capitals game, they got a sports book right there as well. It is becoming common and sort of this new thing in the league. The Wild say there's going to be no inference or implementation of any sort of gambling at the.
Well, how about the future of that building in general in downtown St. Paul? Because they had asked the legislature for some money and weren't in terms of getting upgrades. It is getting older. The rinks is 25 years old now. And it's always been odd to me that a market of our size has a hockey team over here and a basketball over here when you could save some money and put them both in the same building. Like, what do you think is the future of that building in downtown St. Paul?
What you just said is probably the leverage the Wild are going to have. Like if you don't give us money at some point, this is not tangible anymore, and we're going to have to talk to the Wolves about maybe being in their new privately financed building and being a tenant. I mean, that is something that'll be the threat. Okay. And then if all of a sudden, that magnificent arena is vacant in the state capital, that would wreak havoc on that city. So that would probably be their one big leverage point. As far as the legislature rejecting their plans. I mean, the only solace is they rejected every team's wishes, and the Wild are just going to wait until January to try again. I'm somebody that goes to that arena every day. It's still a great building, but I also go to all 32 arenas in this league on a constant basis, and it's got some major flaws. One, revenue streams to the frills, the bells and whistles that other arenas have that bring revenue that also help. If you reinvest it into the team, it makes a better fan experience at times. But then the innards of the arena have not been upgraded at all in 25 years, from the plumbing to, last year in the press box, the Pioneer Press writer had to move to the other side of the press box for the rest of the season because the roof was leaking on his laptop. Stuff like that.
I had that at the Brooklyn Park Ice Arena last night, the bench I was coaching on. Had some,
even
rusty.
Their home locker room definitely needs a fresh coat of paint. And I think that's being done this offseason, some renovations, but it just hasn't happened. And that stuff players see. It also helps, recruit guys here. So we'll see where it goes. I know it was disappointing for the Wild. They feel like, they're in that building 44 out of 365 days a year, and that their owner was willing to almost put up half. And they don't even own the arena. So, I think they feel like it's time for some public help, especially when other teams in this town, save for really, I think the United, have all gotten public money in the past.
KFAN girl texts us at the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line. When will the new jersey be released? And is this the most boring offseason he has ever covered for the Minnesota Wild?
I don't know. It really does feel like the last 6 years has been a very easy job being the beat writer in the offseason, which you don't really want. But it's because of their, after the Parisi Suter thing, they just really haven't been able to do anything in the last 4 off seasons. So I think we're all a little surprised it's been as quiet as they were. I saw it coming, though, because you just saw all the guys they wanted started re-signing with their team. So you just knew that this was going to be a pretty quiet off season. I would have loved to have Kaprizov done now just to get that off the plate. And Rossi as well. As far as the jerseys, my guess is that I was thinking that we would see them by the State Fair. My guess is that they'll sort of be unveiled in mid-September, toward the end of September. I do think that we're getting to a point where the Wild are going to start announcing what their plans are for their 25th anniversary here in the next week to 10 days. And then, but I don't think that we'll get the unveiling of what the jersey looks like until probably late September. But essentially the way it works, I said this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, is that the league only allows you to wear these special jerseys 4 times in a year. So don't think that they're going to, this is going to become permanent, or that they're going to wear them, 10, 15 times. They still got their 3rd jersey, which is the one reverse retro, and then obviously their home and road.
I apologize if I've missed this, but you guys had posted the poll on The Athletic with the all Minnesota Wild team of the first 25 years. Yep. Have you posted results of that?
No, we're going to try that.
I voted on it.
Yeah, it's going to. The whole point of it is that we're going to run it right before training camp.
Got it.
So, I actually, believe it or not, I haven't seen the results. Actually, only my editor has the ability to see them. So, it keeps Joe and I from cheating and seeing the way that things are going. We're also going to have. Maybe you could be on the group. We're going to have some people that have watched a lot of Minnesota Wild over the years pick their own teams. Yeah. And it'll be quite different, right? Because the way that I
basically did it on the air the other day. I killed the segment of
so the way it works with the fan thing is that, if the 4th left wing is actually a really, really good player, that player is going to be the 4th left wing. So let's just say it was Matt Boldy even. Yeah. Where, if I have asked you or Wes Walls or somebody else to do it, you might actually put an actual team together. I want Derek Bugard as my first 4th line left wing. I want
certain role players.
I want Matt Foy as my. I don't know why.
I think I'll take Boldy over Matt Foy. I'm going to go with that.
So, but so it'll be quite different, and then we'll run those as well. So we'll have sort of a bunch of VIPs as well. Probably not too many, because if we want to run their teams, we don't. After you start looking at 10 different rosters, it starts to get all together. But it's a little 100% fun. In. It's a little fun project. I'd love to have you part of it.
I don't know if you're going to actually answer this question, but we'll ask it anyways. A texter at the KFAN text line, Bradshaw and Bryant. Of the following Wild GMs, rank them in order from best to worst: Fletcher, Riseborough, Fenton, and Guerin. Yeah, I knew you weren't going to get into that. Well, how about let me phrase it this way. I was going to ask you this way. because Bill Guerin, is he going into year 7 or 8?
Yep,
year 7. And when people have asked me to evaluate, him as a GM, I'm like, I don't know if I can, because he had 2 contracts that have held him down the entire time. Those are now off the books,
right?
And now I feel like it's the year where you can finally evaluate him.
Yeah, absolutely, and the pressure is on. Like there's no doubt. He bought himself 4 years. I hate to say it like that, but he did. The second he made those decisions, those bold moves, it made it extremely hard for him to operate like a normal GM, right? Because they were paying $15 million less than everybody else, and with some of their bonus overages, even more. So he did buy himself some time, but now that honeymoon period is absolutely over. It is time to sort of put up or shut up here. And so I'm totally with you. I think that's probably a big storyline of this season, and he's on sort of the clock.
I got a text from John Krasinski. He wants to be on that panel that goes over the 25 years.
Let him know that the Athletic Hour is back. We talked to Abbott.
It sounds like the Athletic Hour is coming back.
Yeah, I just signed a new prolific deal with the Athletic, with the Fan Plus.
Thank you, Michael. With all the texts and talk, I could have gone like another 2 hours with you, but we'll just hold it to an hour. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Michael Russo from the Athletic. Thank you to Lil B as well. Charts joined me earlier in the show, and Zach Halverson and Chad Abbott. Thanks for their producing skills as well. But the Common Man will be back on Monday. The Tennafitzgerald has finally got back to shore. We'll be at Vikings training camp Monday, noon to 3, right here on The Fan. Thank you so much for listening all week. It's been a good day.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
Come on, why is this taking so long? This thing is ancient.
Still using yesterday's tech? Upgrade to the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Ultra-light, ultra-powerful, and built for serious productivity with Intel Core Ultra processors, blazing speed, and AI-powered performance that keeps up with your business, not the other way around.
Whoa, this thing moves.
Stop hitting snooze on new tech. Win the tech search at Lenovo.com.
Lenovo.
Unlock AI experiences with the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, powered by Intel Core Ultra processors, so you can work, create, and boost productivity all on one device.